Okay, so now what we're doing is we're looking at taking our Hundertwasser shapes and making them into our chosen sculpture. And they're gonna be very simple, basic sculptures, because what we want you to focus on is not so much the building, although that's obviously an important part. We want you to focus on the colours and the patterns on the surface of these, because if you try and imagine we're going to put all of them together as a class, or maybe even as a year group if we can find a big enough space, to hopefully create a very sort of colourful, exciting looking Hundertwasser style town. So we want them to be as beautifully decorated as possible. And as I've said to you before, the shapes that I have put on here are great, but we obviously want to make sure that we add in all of the detail on our actual Hundertwasser design. So I'm going to trace around this. Now initially I'm not going to need all of the detail. I'm just going to need the outline. We're going to cut them out and put them I'm going to show you how they are put together, but then we're not going to stick them together. We're going to take them back apart again so that we can paint them easily, nice and flat. But we're going to hold on to our tracings because we can trace the design onto the surface for when we come to paint them. So just going around all of these shapes. You don't need to trace out any detail that you may have drawn on. You should be able to just copy that from your design in your book. Now, when I go to my trunk, I'm going to add this on so that it becomes one complete piece. Now, you can see that it doesn't fit on the tracing paper, and that's not a problem. And then all I'm going to do, I've put a little mark on my sketchbook to show where it's finished. And I'm just going to move it over and just finish tracing in that bottom half. A little bit of an overlap. Okay, so we've traced the tree, we've taken the top and the trunk from the two different drawings that we did, and now we need to put it onto the cardboard. Now, you'll all be working with slightly different types of cardboard. Some may be thicker, some may be thinner, some might not be corrugated, it might just be what we call mount board or grey board. But what's very, very important is that if you're using corrugated, the lines which you can see in the cardboard must run this way. So my tree is going to end up standing up like that. If I cut it out this way with the corrugated pieces of cardboard running across the tree, like that, they bend really easily. So what will happen is that my tree will just end up flopping over and collapsing. So you must make sure, it's so important that when you trace it onto the cardboard, your corrugated strips are running up the tree. So they need to be running vertically up the tree or the building or whatever it is that you've decided to do. Once you've got your cardboard facing that way, we're going to need to do 2 copies of this. Now, what I'm going to do, because it's actually quite tricky to trace out on top of the cardboard because it's got a texture and your pencil tends to kind of wobble over the page a little bit. What I'm going to do is just go round the outline, just for the time being. So I'm doing two things. I'm pressing down firmly so that I get an indentation on my cardboard, just in case it doesn't come out very well on the surface. It's actually come out fine. I'm going to put two big marks here at the bottom so I can line those up with the bottom part. If you remember, we had to do it separately because it didn't all quite fit on. And then pressing down nice and firmly, just copy in that last bit, like so. Then I'm going to flip it over because now I've got lead on the other side, and I'm going to cut my, trace out my second one. So moving it right to the top of the cardboard, making sure that my cardboard corrugated sections are running vertically up my tree, or for you it might be a building, whatever it might be, and then go around that again. Now for this type of structure, your cardboard doesn't need to be really, really thick, and that's because of how we're going to be putting them together. So I'm just going to carry on going around that, and you probably can't see it on the film, but that's come out more than enough for me to be able to see. Just line that up with the bottom of my trunk, and then just bring that round. So now I've got my two halves of my tree copied out. What I'm going to do now is make sure that I've got a cutting mat underneath, and I'm going to cut this into two, just so I'm working with a slightly smaller piece of cardboard. It'd be a little bit easier to manage. Cut that off. Now, as before, just like you did in year 7 when you did your other project, when you hold your knife, you have a button on the top. If you press that down and push that out, it will bring the blade out. Press it down, pull it back, we'll take it back again. Some of them have an additional button on them, which is a locking button. If you just move that button down and then slide it forward, the blade will come out. When you hold it, you have 3 fingers underneath, your index finger on top and your thumb at the side. This is the only way that you should hold the knife. What you want to try and do is cut with as much of the blade as you can, not just the tip. If you cut with the tip of the blade like this, you don't get such smooth cut lines. So if you hold it like this, making sure your other hand is always out of the way of the direction that you're cutting in, and then you just want to bring that knife over the top of your cardboard. Now what you will find is that it likely won't cut on the first go, because the cardboard, even though this is quite thin cardboard that we're using, it's still much thicker than a piece of paper. So then bring that down, like so. And you can generally tell when you've got through the cardboard because you can feel the cutting mat underneath. So when you go over again, do just try and be careful, because sometimes you can veer off on a different path. Now before you try and pop it out, if you flip it over, you'll be able to see those lines, and you can often see where it hasn't quite come through. And then you can just gently run your knife over the top of the cardboard, and that will just bring those lines out, like so, and just help with those cut lines. Just spend the time to go around it. If you try and force it out when it's not properly cut, you can end up ripping your sculpture. Gently pop that out. And then you've got a good solid structure with your your corrugated lines running vertically down, so it's nice and solid, it's not going to bend. Okay, then we'll do the next one. Okay, so now I've got my 2 trees. And what's going to happen is that these trees are going to slot into one another like so. Okay, so what we need to do is to measure roughly halfway from the top down to the bottom. And then once you've got that halfway point, so it's going to be 46, so we want to come down about 23, and that's going to be our halfway point on both of them. Now, you are probably going to be advised by your teacher to do your cuts after you've painted them. I'm showing them to you now because it just makes it easier to do it all in one go, in one video. Now, I'm going to rule some lines, and I'm going to make a little section which I'm going to use to slot them together. So on one of them, that section is going to be in the bottom half, and on the other one, and you want it to be quite close to the middle, that section is going to be in the top half. Now you want to try and get that, I didn't put that right in the middle, so I'll just move that over just a little bit. You want to try and get them in the middle so that they slot together nicely. Now, because the cardboard is thick, you can't, when you do this with paper, you can just slot the 2 pieces of paper together with a single cut, but you can't do that with cardboard because the cardboard is too thick. So, use a ruler. And cut those out. And once you've got those 2 sections, you should then be able to take your trees and slot them both together. And then just wiggle them around until you've got a solid base, and then that becomes your 3D tree.